Evametad yatat tattvam atmanam parameshwara drashtumichhamite rupam aishwaram purushottama manyase yaditat chakyam maya drishtumiti prabho yogeshwara tato me tvam darshayamasa mapyayam. Evametad yatat tattvam atmanam parameshwara drashtumichhamite rupam aishwaram purushottama. This is Arjuna's 12th question in the Gita. Response comes the glorious Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga. Pashyame Patta Rupani Satashota Sahasrasaha Nana Vidani Divyani Nana Varanakriti Nicha Pashyadityan Vasun Rudran Ashvino Marutastata Bahunya Drishta Purvani Pashyascharya Bharata Yekastam Jagatkastam Pashyadisa Charachara Mamadehe Gudakesha Yachanyat Drashtupichasi Natumam Sakyate Drashtum Anenaivat Swachusha Divyam Dadhamite Chakshu Pashyame Yogamaishwaram. Pashyame Yogamaishwaram. Krishna declares, say Arjuna, Pashyame Yogamaishwaram. How blessed was Arjuna to behold the wonders, the wonder of wonders, to behold that wonderful form of Krishna. Pashyame Yogamaishwaram. Beholding God is definitely very special, very exciting. Most often, many say, if only I can behold God, if only I can see God, my faith and my bhakti will be strengthened a lot more. If only I can see God. It is very important to understand, in the process of cultivating Shraddha and Bhakti, seeing God, beholding God, is not the primary driver for development of Shraddha and Bhakti. It is only supplementary. Beholding Krishna is no doubt exciting, no doubt very special. But the primary driver for the development of Shraddha and Bhakti is holding Krishna. Holding Krishna internally is more important. By holding Krishna internally, beholding Krishna will be a natural outcome. To those who hold on to Krishna, eventually they shall behold him eternally. If somebody comes and asks you, have you seen God? Let's say somebody approaches you and they ask this question, have you seen God? All of a sudden we may become very defensive. It's a very difficult question possibly to answer. When the question is asked, have you seen God? Most often it implies, does God exist? Because the one who believes in Astikya, it's not going to ask that question. Typically, it's a question asked by an Astika. So when the question is asked, have you seen God? It implies, does God exist? One of my favorite stories about the existence of God. It seems there was this wise man who walked into a barber shop to get a haircut. And As the barber was cutting his hair, both of them picked up a conversation, and the barber happened to be an atheist. And as they started conversing about several things, the topic of God came in, and then the barber proudly declared, "You know what? God doesn't exist." This wise man very calmly responded, "What do you say so? What makes you think God does not exist?" Barber said, "It's very simple. You just walk out onto the street. You will see poverty, suffering, abandoned children, homeless people, all kinds of pain and suffering. If God exists, how can such terrible things exist? So therefore, God does not exist." Now, this wise man was a little busy, so he did not want to get into a detailed conversation with his barber. So he prepared to go out, and as he just stepped out on the street, he saw a man with dirty, long hair, unkept, and also a long beard. And immediately he walked back and he looked at the barber and said, "You know what? Barbers don't exist." The barber said, "How can you say this? I'm a barber and I exist." He said, "You just have to walk out on the street and see there is this man with a long, dirty hair and a long, unkempt beard. Therefore, barbers don't exist." "Ha," he said, "you know what? The reason is he has not come to me. That is the reason why he is dirty with long, dirty hair and unkempt beard." I said, "That's exactly the point. It's not that God doesn't exist. It is just that people don't seek him. They don't go to him." The message is, prerequisite for seeing God is sincere seeking God. If one does not seek him, one will not see him. Seeking him is the preliminary step, and seeking genuinely with all sincerity. And in the process of seeking, seeing is guaranteed. So we need not be defensive to answer this question, have you seen God? We can confidently answer yes. We keep seeing God every day, day in and day out. He manifests himself as beautiful Acha Vigraha. His Acha Murti is his own manifestation. Ye yatha mam prapadyante mams tatha bhajamyaham, Krishna declares. Bhajami aham. Bhajami here is serve. Krishna says, whoever surrenders to me, resorts to me, I serve them, he says. Bhajamyaham. I serve them in the manner appropriate to their seeking. Bhajami, serving, reciprocating. Bhajami also include darshayami. I also appear to them. I also reveal myself. So through his Archa manifestations, day in and day out, every moment, we get his revelation, we get to see him. On top of that, we also need to be very clear. Visibility cannot be a prerequisite for existence. Visibility cannot be a prerequisite for existence. If visibility is a prerequisite for existence, then it is not logical, it is not scientific. Because even science explains the visible through invisible things. Bulk of scientific research, or rather scientific research, is based on inference, not actual seeing. A majority of material phenomenon is beyond the range of our perception. So therefore, inference is trying to see the visible through, trying to see the invisible through the visible. Inference is trying to see the invisible through the visible. By seeing the visible, we can infer the invisible. By perceiving the visible laws of this universe, we can infer the lawmaker. By seeing the visible order in this universe, by seeing the visible design in this universe, we can infer the universe maker, the designer, the order giver. By perceiving the visible structure and process and interconnectedness of this universe, we can infer the Supreme Being. By perceiving the wonder of this world, when we reflect on the miraculous nature of how this world works, so every simple process is so very miraculous. This whole visible phenomenon universe goes through a repeated series of energy transformations, motion, heat, light, sound. Every simple process involves a series of complex, miraculous transformation of energy. Let me give a simple example. Snapping off my fingers here. I snap my finger. When I snap my finger, there is energy that is created. This energy is coming from the molecules, the proteins, the fats in the body, the source. And the source of the energy generated by the molecules in the body is the vegetation, the animal kingdom. The source of energy generated by the animal kingdom is the light that is coming from the sun. The source of the light that is coming from the sun is the nuclear reaction that happens in the core of the sun 10,000 years back or even more. To look at this interconnectedness of this process that begins all the way back thousands and thousands of years before, a nuclear reaction that happens at the core of the sun thousands of years back ends up in the climax of me snapping my finger. When we reflect on this wondrous series of energy transformation which is happening all the time, there is an order, there is a design, there is a miraculous way the universe works. We can infer that there is a Supreme Being who is orchestrating this entire process that is going on forever in an orderly fashion. So Gita calls this kind of seeing with jnana chakshu. Physical seeing is seeing with mamsa chakshu, seeing with the eyes of knowledge, jnana chakshu. So even in our day-to-day lives, we use our eyes of knowledge. In fact, when we say we see, most often it is not just seeing with the physical eyes, it is actually seeing with the eyes of knowledge. When we say we see something, it is not just physical response to a stimuli, it is actually using our knowledge. Now, when I see a graph curving down, the knowledge of economics automatically I see recession. When I see light coming from the sun, I don't just see light coming from the sun. With jnana chakshu, I can actually see a benevolent God who has ensured that the position of the earth vis-a-vis sun in such a way is that there is only appropriate light and heat, not more, not less than what is required for survival of life on this planet. So therefore, seeing with jnana chakshu can be at different levels. This is where Arjuna in the 10th chapter, Krishna gives him the exposition on using jnana chakshu and seeing Krishna connected to every entity. Every entity is vibhuti. So whichever entity I look at, I can connect that entity with Krishna. Just like how a mother can see the child in everything the child uses, the playthings of the child reminds the mother. The child may not be physically there, the child will be in another room, but everything that belongs to the child reminds the mother of that connectedness. Similarly, I can see Krishna by reflecting on the jnana chakshu of knowing that he pervades and controls Looking at this world, I can see his power permeating everywhere. Yadyad vibhutimat sattvam Srimadujjitameva Tattadevavagachatvam Mama Tejamsa Sambhavam, Krishna said. Everything, every excellence is a spark of a manifestation of a spark of his excellence. So this is the second level of seeing with Jnana Chakshu. The highest level of seeing is seeing with Divya Chakshu, divine eyes. And there is a process. There is a process to see God. When we say we want to really see him, his Divya Mangala Swarupa, his Divya Mangala Rupa, that seeing requires Divya Chakshu. Nasandrishe Tishtati Rupamasya, Nachakshusha Pashyati Kaschanainam, Hruda Hristam Manasa, Enam Viduramritaste Bhavanti. The Smetaspatra Upanishad declares it is not possible to see him through the Mamsa Chakshu. With our physical eyes, we cannot see him. It requires the process of bhakti. Yayenam Viduramritaste Bhavanti. Hruda Hristam Manasa. Yayenam Viduramritaste Bhavanti. By cultivation of bhakti, through the eyes of not just knowledge that is ripened into bhakti, then one can get to start to experience him. Then as we keep experiencing him, this is where we graduate from inference to experience. With the eyes of knowledge, we infer. But with the eyes of bhakti, we graduate from inference to experience. We start to experience Krishna. And as we continue to experience him, we begin to realize him. And eventually, we behold, we get to see him. This is the process which we get to see being demonstrated in the Gita. Arjuna was very keen to know how to remember Krishna. And in that process, Vibhuti Yoga, in Vibhuti Yoga chapter 10, Krishna presented a list of all his Vibhutis. Now, as a logical conclusion of his exposition, he is also going to do a demonstration. Demonstration follows exposition. Revelation follows conceptualization. The Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga is a revelation of the conceptualization of the nature of God, the nature of Paramatma that was detailed throughout 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th chapters. Specifically, in the 9th chapter, the beautiful principle, the relationship between each and every one of us, between the universe and Bhagavan, was presented in Krishna's own characteristic style. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham teshu avastitaha nachamatstani bhutani pashyame yogamaishwaram. Now we can see the connection between 9th chapter, what Krishna has presented as a concept, and what he's going to demonstrate now. Pashyame yogamaishwaram. There also Krishna said Pashyame yogamaishwaram. Here also Krishna is saying Pashyame yogamaishwaram. So what is the difference between that Pashya and this Pashya? That Pashya is Pashya with Jnana Chakshu. This Pashya is Pashya with Divya Chakshu. This is graduating from inference to experience to actually seeing him. Pashyame yogamaishwaram. There, the concept of the nature of Bhagavan was presented by Krishna. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina. Hey Krishna, hey Arjuna, the universe is the container, I am the contained. The universe is the container, Bhagavan is the contained, which means he pervades and permeates this entire universe. Every entity is permeated and pervaded by him. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham teshu avastitaha. The reason for his pervasion is to support. He is the adhara for this entire universe. Nachaham teshu avastitaha. Now, the way, while he is contained within the universe, he is immanent in the universe, but he is not constrained by the universe. He is immanent, he is transcendent at the same time. He is immanent, he is present within the universe, and he is also present beyond the universe. And Nachamatstani Bhutani Pashyame Yoga Maishwaram. Nachamatstani Bhutani. He supports the universe, but he does not support it like a material entity supporting another material entity. If I am supporting this book, we can clearly see how two material entities, the supporter and the supported. But Krishna says this is not the way to understand. When we say the pot supports the water, Bhagavan supporting the universe should not be understood in such a manner. That's why he says, Pashyame Yogamaishwaram. It is with my Sankalpa Shakti that I am the Adhara and this Jagat is the Adheya. I am the Shariri, this Jagat is the Sharira. I am the Niyanta, this Jagat is the Niyamyam. So he basically establishes the relationship there. That Yogamaishwaram is we need to underline. What is Yogamaishwaram? The inseparable, intimate relationship between the Jagat and the Jagannatha, between Bhagavan and this entire universe. They are inseparably related, just like how a substance and its attribute are inseparably related all the time. Now, that Yogamaishwaram that he explained in the 9th chapter is what is now going to reveal in the 11th chapter. So Arjuna now has this question, the 12th question in the series of questions that Arjuna raised. The 12th question is where Arjuna is seeking to see. Evametat yatha tattvam atmanam parameshwara drashtu vichhamite rupam aishwaram purushottama. As we have seen, Arjuna, when it comes to constructing questions, is a master. We need to give credit to Arjuna for constructing questions in a way that the question has scope for a very detailed answer. It's also very important when we ask a question, the question should be in such a way that it should result in an answer which is comprehensive in nature. So the questioning is an art, and that we learn from Arjuna. Evametad yathat. Whatever you have described here, Krishna, so far, whatever you have explained so far, evametad, it is so. I know it is certain. Evametad yathat tattvam atmanam parameshwara. Hey Parameshwara, hey Krishna, you are the Parameshwara. Parama Ishwara, the supreme ruler, the supreme controller. Now, see the way he addresses Krishna as well. Now he has understood who Krishna is. He has understood that Krishna is the Paramatma. Now he says, you are Parameshwara, you are the supreme controller. So whatever you say has to be true. Evametad. Therefore, it is certain. Whatever you have explained so far is certain. There is no iota of doubt whatsoever. Evametad yadathatvam atmanam parameshwara drashtu vichhamite rupam aishwaram purushottama. Now he calls him Purushottama, not Parameshwara. Parameshwara, supreme controller, whatever you say has to be true. Now I need a favor from you. Therefore, you are Purushottama. Hey Purushottama. Why Purushottama? He is Uttama Purusha. We have seen this before. There are 3 kinds of Purushas. Adhama Purusha, Madhyama Purusha, Uttama Purusha. Adhama Purusha is the one who only sees doshas, deficiencies in others. He is the Adhama Purusha. Madhyama Purusha ignores the deficiencies. Uttama Purusha accepts the deficiencies. He takes our deficiencies, accepts our doshas, and return gives abundant blessings. In return, he gives abundant blessings. Therefore, Arjuna knows he is Purushottama. You need to abundantly bless me now. I know I have my deficiencies. I have my doshas. Abundantly bless me. What is the blessing that Arjuna is asking for? Drashtumichamite rupam Aishwaram. I am now desirous of being blessed with your rupa, the vision of your Aishwaram rupam, he says. Aishwaram rupam, lordly form, the form which is unlimited in nature, which is not subject to any limitations. Now, Arjuna is also asking a very tricky thing here. He is not only asking, please reveal your rupa to me, he's also asking, please reveal your swarupa to me. Seeing a form is natural, but how can one see the nature? How can we see, if somebody says he is angry, how can we see anger? Arjuna here is asking Krishna, reveal your form and reveal also your nature, your rupa and your swarupa. What is Bhagavan's swarupa? He is Akila Karana, he is Jagat Karana, he is Sarvadhara, he is Niyanta, he is Sarvaseshi. Therefore, in order for Arjuna to see Bhagavan's swarupa, Krishna then has to reveal creation, has to reveal sustenance, has to reveal dissolution. Thereby, Arjuna can actually see creation as it happens, sustenance as it happens, dissolution as it happens. So in that process, Arjuna not only sees Bhagavan's rupa, he also can see Bhagavan's swarupa. So Arjuna says, Drashtumichamite rupam aishwaram purushottama. Manyase edita chakyam maya drashtumiti prabhu. Yogeshwara tatho me tvam darshayavasam apyayam. This is where Arjuna expresses his humility. He says, hey Krishna, Manyase yedita chakyam maya drashtumiti prabhu. Hey Prabhu, if you think I am qualified, I am suitable enough, if you think I have the necessary qualification, then please reveal your rupa and swarupa to me. Now, what is this qualification that is necessary to see? Now, all of us see, but all of us have our own limitations to see. Firstly, the human capability to see is so very limited. Even within the material phenomenon, there is very limited things that we can see. There are different kinds of waves in this universe. There are only few of them which impact the retina of the eye, enabling us to become sensitive, to respond, and thereby see. There is so much which is beyond the range of our perception. Also, seeing requires training the eye. The same thing you and I can see, and we can comprehend things differently. So therefore, seeing also requires a lot of training here. If a mechanic looks at a landscape, a beautiful landscape, possibly he can only see something very limited. Whereas when an artist looks at the same landscape, he will see a lot more than a mechanic. Similarly, you take an artist to a shop floor filled with machinery, the artist will possibly only see something very limited, whereas the mechanic will see a lot more than an artist. The same physical eye will need a lot more training. So there are a lot more qualification that is required to see. And therefore here, Arjuna is asking Krishna, hey Krishna, if you believe that I have the necessary qualification, indirectly saying, you better qualify me, Hey Krishna. I know I do not have the qualification. If I do not know, please grant me the qualification. Give me the pass certificate. And then enable me. You reveal. Manyase yaditat shakyam maya drashtumiti prabho. Yogeshwara tato me tvam darshayama samabhyayam. So thus Arjuna submits himself to Krishna and puts forward the special request of seeing. Now this is where the real seeing, the highest level of seeing is going to happen. Now Arjuna was so blessed. He's been put on a fast track, graduating from inference to experience to realization and seeing, all happening at a fast pace. So then Krishna first prepares him for the vision. The beauty in Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga is we get to see three perspectives of the vision of the Vishwarupa. The first perspective is presented by Krishna himself. Krishna, before the revelation, prepares Arjuna and gives him a description of the Vishwarupa, which is then followed by a description by Sanjaya, which is then followed by the description by Arjuna. So the same vision is presented to us from three different people that enables us to experience the Vishwarupa a lot more. That makes our experience of the Vishwarupa even more richer. Pashyame Patta Rupani Shatashota Sahasrasaha Nana Vidani Divyani Nana Varana Pratinicha. This is how Krishna begins preparing Arjuna for that awe-inspiring form, lordly form, his Aishwaram Rupam. Pashyame Patta Rupani Shatashota Sahasrasaha. Hey Partha, Pashya. You're going to see. So even though he says Pashya, he's preparing him for the revelation. The Vishwarupa, the revelation has still not happened, because Arjuna still has only Jnana Chakshu, not Divya Chakshu yet. But Arjuna is already presenting to him what is to come. It's kind of giving him a trailer. He's basically saying, hey Partha, Pashyame Partha Rupani Shatashota Sahasrasaha. You're going to see thousands and thousands of forms, all kinds of forms, all kinds of manifestations, all coming together. The multiplicity, all coming together, unified, all together in one place. Shatashota Sahasrasaha Nana Vidani Divyani Nana Varuna Kritinicha. Divine forms, beautiful manifestations of varied colors, varied hues, varied types. Now, why Krishna is talking about varied colors, varied hues? Because Arjuna wanted to see Krishna's nature. So Krishna has to reveal creation, sustenance, dissolution across time, across the entire past, present, and future are all going to come together in one divisionless instant, which possibly we can call omniscience. Past, present, and future all are going to come together in one divisionless instant. Time is going to be suspended, and Arjuna is going to get a revelation of Krishna's Swarupa. Therefore, Krishna here is going to reveal to him his various forms, his Vyuha forms, with which he engages in creation, sustenance, and dissolution. Bhagavans, there are 5 principal modes of Bhagavan. Para, Vyuha, Vibhava, Antaryami, Archa. Para is his form, is transcendental form, is form in Vaikuntha, which is transcendental, which is beyond this material creation, which is not accessible to anyone in this samsaric world. Vyuhas are his emanations from his transcendental form, where there are 4 Vyuha forms: Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha forms. The Vibhava forms are his various avatars. From time to time, he descends and takes several forms. And these are, we celebrate them as his avatars. The Antaryami is the form where he is the indweller present in each and every one of us. And the Archa are the various manifestations, the image manifestations, the worshipable deity forms, the various Divyamangala Vigrahas we wear in our temples and at homes that we use to worship. So Bhagavan is present in these 5 principal modes. It is said that if a man, if he is thirsty, and if you ask him to dig a well, draw out water, and then quench his thirst, it is like asking him to discover his Antaryami. If a seeker is asked to discover his Antaryami, it is like asking one who is thirsty to dig a well, draw the water, and then drink. Chances of his survival are very limited. So even though Bhagavan is present within us as Antaryami, we end up spending countless lifetimes without even realizing his presence. To ask a seeker, to direct a seeker to Vaikuntha is like directing a thirsty man to walk millions and millions and millions of miles to a lake to draw water. Impossible. To direct a seeker to his Vyuha forms also is similar. Maybe not walk millions and millions, maybe less, not millions, but still is a long walk, almost impossible. To direct a seeker to his Vibhava forms is like asking a thirsty man, it rained a few years back, please collect water from those rains. Avatar has happened. To direct a seeker to his Acha forms is like asking a thirsty man to go to the pools of water which are collected when there are rains, easily accessible, and that is the reason why surrender to Acha is the most easy and the most prescribed method by all our acharyas. Now, the Vyuha forms, Paravasudevas, emanations, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddhas. These are Vyuha forms which Bhagavan manifests over multiple yugas. In every yuga, every Vyuha form has a different hue, different color, with different set of ayudhas, different abharanas. And that is exactly what Arjuna gets to see. Nana vidani divyani, nana varna krithinicha. Different hues, different colors, different forms, different kinds of ornaments, different kinds of weapons. Bhagavan, in that process, Arjuna gets to see Krishna as the creator, as the one who supports, as the one who dissolves, and he gets to see his Swarupa. Pasyadityan Vasun Rudran Ashwinau Marutastatha Bahunya Drishta Purvani Pasyascharyani Bharata. In the 10th chapter, all his vibhutis were explained in detail. And now Krishna is saying, hey Arjuna, you can now see all the vibhutis that I explained to you, all as part of my Sharira. All the vibhutis. Every vibhuti is Bhagavan's Sharira. He is Vibhu. The Vibhuti is his Sharira. We need to understand this relationship between Bhagavan and every other entity. The Sharira, Shariri Bhavam needs to be properly understood. What is this relationship? Shariri, Sharira. The Sharira, the body, is supported by the Shariri. So, supporter, supported. Bhagavan is the supporter. Everything else is supported. That is the first relationship. The second, the Sharira is controlled and governed by the Shariri. So Bhagavan, the Shariri, is the controller, is the supporter, and the Sharira is controlled. This is the second relationship. The third relationship is the Sharira exists as an utility for the Shariri. The purpose of the Sharira is to be a utility to the Shariri. There is no other purpose other than that. So these are the three relationships. So these three relationships can be applied to our relationship with Bhagavan. We are his Sharira. He is our Shariri. Therefore, we are supported. He is the supporter. We are controlled. He is the controller. We are the utility who exists only for his sake. We have no existence without him. We are inseparable. Our very existence depends on him. We are nothing without him. So thus, now this vision of the Shariri and Sharira relationship is presented through Vishwarupa, through Arjuna. Arjuna now is able to see every vibhuti of Bhagavan as part of the Sharira. Pashyadityan, Vasun, Rudran, all the 12 Adityas. Now, Adityas are the Devas. Every Manvantara, there are a set of Devas. Adityas keep changing in every Manvantara. The 12 Adityas. Pashyadityan, Vasun, Ashta Vasus. Ekadasha Rudras, Pashyadityan, Vasun, Rudran, Ashwino. The two Ashwins, Marutaha, the 49 Maruts are all seen. Hey Arjuna, you are going to see all of them. These are the 33 Devatas that are celebrated throughout the Shastras. The 12 Adityas, the 8 Vasus, the 11 Rudras, the 2 Ashwins, and the 49 Maruts are all He Pashyadityan, Vasun, Rudran, Ashwino, Marutas, Tata, Bahuni, Adrishtapurvani, Adrishtapurvani. Also, you are also going to see what was unseen before. Whatever you want to see, you can also see here, Arjuna. Krishna says, there is a message here. Whatever you have not seen, Krishna is going to reveal the past, the present, and the future. When he says, whatever you have not seen, you can also see, which means you can also see the outcome of the Mahabharata war. I'm also going to reveal. Therefore, the Vishwarupa is nothing but revelation of Krishna's pervasion, presence, power, and purpose. So the Vishwarupa, we get to know all these four: his pervasion, his presence, his power manifesting everywhere, and also his purpose, his divine will also be revealed to Vishwarupa. Bahunyadrishtapurvani sarvascharyaani bharata. Ihaikastam jagatkritsnam pashyadhyasa characharam mamadehe gudakesha yachanyat drashtumichasi. Ihaikastam jagatkritsnam. The universe, everything in the universe, Krishna is there, everything in the universe. Vasudeva sarvamiti. This shloka, we need to reflect a little bit more to understand that the most important message here. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti. Everything is Vasudeva. Now, Vasudeva sarvamiti. Who understands this? Jnanavam. The Jnanavan, the Jnani, the Bhakta, the Supreme Bhakta understands Vasudeva sarvamiti. But with that understanding, what does this Bhakta do? Krishna says, Mam prapadyate. He Vasudeva sarvamiti. Everything is Vasudeva, but Krishna says everything is Vasudeva, but surrender to Vasudeva, not to everything and anything. So everything is Vasudeva, but Vasudeva is not everything. This needs to be understood very clearly. Everything is Vasudeva. Why? Because he is present in everything. His immanence needs to be understood. In the glorious Nrsimhavatara, when Prahlada explains to Hiranyakashipu Bhagavan's presence everywhere, he is pervaded everywhere, he is present everywhere, he is present in each of these hundreds of pillars out here. And when the pillar is broken and Nrsimha comes out of the pillar, Prahlada with the garland does not approach the pillar, he approaches Nrsimha. Vasudeva sarvamiti. Yes, Vasudeva is everything, but everything is also not Vasudeva, because he is immanent, he is also transcendent. So it is very important to understand that his immanence is only for one reason. To point, the world needs to point to him. He is present only because as a pointer, as a constant reminder The way we need to understand his immanence is to connect everything with him, and in that process, constantly keep our attention and focus only on him. So therefore, here, Ihaikastam Jagat Kritsnam, this entire universe, Ihaikastam, you can see as one small part. In one small part of my Sharira, you can see this entire universe. Jagat Kritsnam, everything in totality. You can only see a small fragment of my Sharira. In my small fragment, you can see this entire universe. Essentially saying, I am the universe and I'm beyond this universe. I'm immanent, I'm transcendent. And everything that you see, this multiplicity of this universe, underlying this is something which is unifying them, which is me, and I exist also beyond. I am within and I am without. Ihaikastam Jagatkastam Pashyadisa Charachara. All the living, the non-living, the moving and the non-moving, everything that you can imagine, everything that you can think of, hey Arjuna, you can see. You can here still the revelation still has not happened. Arjuna is still being prepared. Krishna is preparing him. This is what you're going to see. This is what you're going to see. Pashyadis characharam mama dehe gudakesha. He says, mama dehe, in my body, which means it is one form. Vishwarupa is one form, a limitless form. Now, limitless form sounds like an oxymoron. A form, by definition, has to be limited. But this is the beauty that Bhagavan's Vishwarupa is a limitless form, and in that limitless form, a small portion of that limitless form, you can actually see everything that you would ever want to see. Jagat Kritsnam, Avadehe Gudakesha, Echanyat Drashtumichas. Natumam Chakyashe Drashtum Anaineva Sakshusha, Ivyam Dadamite Chakshu, Pashyame Yogamaishwaram. Hey Arjuna, it is not possible for you to see me, to see this form of mine with your ordinary eyes made of mamsa, with your physical eyes. Natumam shakyase drashtum aneneva svachakshusha. Therefore, Arjuna then is worried. Then what is going to happen in Krishna? Is my request will be fulfilled? Divyam dadamite chakshu. Divyam dadamite chakshu. Divya chakshu. I am going to grant you Divya chakshu, the divine eyes. Pashyame yogam aishwaram. With this divine eyes, this Divya Chakshu, you will be able to, I will enable you to see my universal form, this Vishwarupa, this Aishwaram Rupam, Aishwaryam Rupam, where you are going to see not only my Rupa, but also my Swarupa. Eva Muktva Tatho Rajan Mahayogeshwaro Harihi Darshayamasa Pataya Paramam Rupam Aishwaram. Immediately, the scene shifts to the indoor Gita, where, in an air-conditioned room, just like all of us, Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra are having a nice conversation. Krishna and Arjuna are sweating it out on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Whereas, nicely sitting inside the shade, there is inner Grita also going on commentary. It's like, cricket is happening, 4 cricketers, on the ground under the sun, 40 degrees they're playing, and nicely sitting inside in an air-conditioned room, people are enjoying. Similarly, Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra are having this conversation. Obviously, Dhritarashtra, in spite of air-conditioned room, is sweating. That's a different matter. That is because of his inner stress. Sanjaya is enjoying. Sanjaya is so very blessed that because of Vyasa's blessings, he is also able to see not only what is going on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he's also able to experience, to see the Vishwarupa of Krishna. So Krishna's Vishwarupa is now being explained. Now, Divyam Dadhamite, the moment Krishna said Divyam Dadhamite Chakshuhu, the Divya Chakshu is granted, and immediately, instantaneously, Arjuna is able to see the Vishwarupa. Now, what we need to understand here is, Vishwarupa is not something where all of a sudden, we see in the TV serials, Krishna immediately growing in size. Small Krishna suddenly is becoming big, and Arjuna is able to see. That is not the way to understand Vishwarupa. Arjuna is enabled to see reality as is. There is nothing new he is seeing. It is not that Krishna suddenly, became on a 70 mm screen, something like that. So Arjuna is enabled all of a sudden to pierce through the wheel of Prakriti and is able to actually see Bhagavan, and not just see his Rupa, but actually see past, present, and future all coming together. Imagine if one tiny cell in the body suddenly gets a vision of the 100 trillion cells of the body all working together. Imagine what would be the experience of that cell. This body is an organic whole. It's one whole, WHOLE, miraculously working. And there are 100 trillion cells all working together. Every cell is doing its own work, working parallel. And all of a sudden, if one cell gets a vision of the entire body, the part getting the vision of the whole, this is exactly what has happened to Arjuna. The seer is also present in the seen vision. It's not that Arjuna is outside of the vision. Vishwarupa, everything in the Vishwa is included, including the seer. Arjuna also is part of the seen vision. Evamuktva tato rajan mahayogeshwaro harihi darshayamasa paramam rupamaishwaram aneka vaktranayam anekadbhuta darshanam aneka divyavaranam divyadeko divyamalyam varadaram divyagandhanulepanam sarvashcharyamayam devam anantam vishwato mukham sarvashcharyamayam devam. Sanjaya cannot contain his enthusiasm, is thrilled to see Aneka Vaktranayam, Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam, Aneka Divyabharanam, Divyaneko Yadayudam, Divyamalyam Varadaram, Divyagandhanulepanam, Sarvascharyamayam Devam. Ascharya. Wonder of wonders. To see, imagine, visualize this. The only way we can experience this, visualizing Krishna everywhere, all around, visualizing his smile everywhere. Electrifying, enchanting vision where we can see his presence all around us, or everything surrounded, looking at, he is everywhere. In every entity we can see him, we can see his presence within and without. Aneka Vaktranayam, Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam, everywhere. And his multiple forms, each form performing a particular cosmic function, and we see him bedecked with divine ornaments, divine garlands, celestial perfumes, giving Arjuna the experience that one can never imagine. And what will happen? Horripilations all over the body. Tatastha vismaya vishtaha, shtaroma dhananjaya. Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, hey Dhritarashtra, how blessed Arjuna is, how blessed he is that he is presented with a vision that is unheard of. And by experiencing, by seeing that vision, Tatastha Tispaya Vishtaha Krishtaroma Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya is having horripilations all over his body. And what was his response? Pranamya Sirasadevam Kritanjalirabhasata. What else can he do? It took some time for Arjuna to speak up. All that he can do with horripilations all over his body, Pranamya Sirasadevam. He just prostrated to Krishna. Pranamya Sirasadevam Kritanjali, expressing his deepest gratitude for bestowing a vision which is so very unique. Now, Arjuna, after experiencing this, will start to explain the vision. And in that process, he also goes through multiple emotions. And the 13th question of Arjuna will be in response to a particular facet of the Vishwarupa, which we will discuss in the next week. Until then, let us continue to contemplate on this glorious Vishwarupa of Bhagavan. Aneka Vaktranayam, Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam, Aneka Divyabharanam, Divyanekodyatayudam, Divyamalyam Bharadaram, Divyagandhanulepanam, Sarvashcharyamayam Devam, Anantam Vishwato Mukham. Anantam Vishwato Mukham.